everyone. This is Jackie Campbell from Campbell Company, Wealth Advisors and CPAs, Certified Financial Planner and Certified Public Accountant, and also from Beyond the Money Radio. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to have a webinar on how to survive the bear market. What a difference 30 days can make. We've just experienced the fastest bear market in history, and many investors are wondering, what do you do now? Bearish indicators persist and volatility continues due to economic uncertainty caused by the global health crisis known as COVID-19, and we also have a rout in the oil markets. How should the investors react? It's all about having a strategic plan and not allowing your emotions to control your decision making. On our radio show, Beyond the Money, we also have a podcast that you can subscribe to and listen to anytime, or you can listen to us live on Saturdays at 11 or Sundays at 7 on 99.9 WXJB. We also have a financial relief resource center. We want to be the very best we can as a resource for our clients, whether you're an individual, a retiree, or working, and whether you're a business owner or an employee. We have many things there, many tools to help you navigate through this, through the new tax acts, which are occurring almost daily and weekly. We have blogs, podcasts, webinar, and so much more. mycpagroup.com. The news of the day has been quite scary lately. Scary headlines with words like historic and unprecedented. Our daily routines and habits have been abruptly altered, and we're adjusting to the new norm. Everyone on the front lines, our medical staff, our first responders, our law enforcement, and our military, and many that are still essential workers, are risking their health and possibly their life to protect and serve our communities. Others are not working at all. Unemployment is climbing to all-time highs, not just in the US, but across the globe. Our supply chains are also under pressure, and of course, markets are wildly volatile. They're down, then they're up, then they're down again. In reaction to the history that's been being made daily, our daily routines and habits have been abruptly altered, and this new normal is a rocky adjustment in our personal, professional, and financial lives. This is a pretty good quote for what's going on today. Everyone has a plan till they get punched in the mouth. Mike Tyson had it right. For the past 11 years or so, the market's been easy. How did floating gently down the stream turn into a wild whitewater rafting trip? Some investors are astonished. They thought that they had a solid plan, but this was not the journey that they had signed up for. It may be a time to update your financial plan, to make sure that you're managing risk, you have the appropriate amount of risk, and you're positioned for rebound opportunities. We're all looking for historical benchmarks to compare this to, but is it really the same as 2008? Some have looked to recent history to try to understand where we are now, but this time it's different. We'll be talking about this in the storybooks for years to come. The market by a global health crisis caused by a virus, COVID-19, there is no treatment or vaccine, and the near-term outlook for the health and our economy and our portfolio remains uncertain. How do we know that we're in a bear market? We've heard that a lot lately, and it's defined by a bear market when there's a decline of 20% or more from recent highs. This took all of 1 week. Another way of looking at this equation is you add the basic market reaction plus the investor behavior plus a pandemic, and it really is a whole new animal. Retirement red zone. That's typically 5 to 10 years before retirement. Also, 5 to 10 years after retirement is that really important time. Every market cycle has risk, and every financial plan does as well. Risk is added no matter how you slice up the pie. When time is on your side, it's much easier to manage the downturns, but as investors approach their goal of retirement, the reality of drawing money out nears. Understanding and managing the risk becomes critical, not only in this retirement red zone, but to and through retirement. The day of your retirement has been known as the riskiest day in your financial life. There are three risks that we look at: sequence risk, longevity risk, and behavioral risk. The first, sequence risk, sequence of returns. We talk about that quite often, and it's like bailing water out of a swimming pool that is already leaking from the bottom. Why? It's when you start taking withdrawals from your retirement accounts, your savings accounts, that is when the sequence of returns really matters. It may be more important than your average annual return. Here's an example of a chart starting with $1 million, and this is looking back at the S&P. These were the actual returns for the S&P index. If you remember, in the early 2000s, there were 3 years back-to-back losses. And starting out at $1 million portfolio and taking out 4%, a 4% withdrawal with a 2% cost of living each year, you can see that at the end of that third year, you would have lost half of your portfolio. And if you look down after 15 years, taking out that 4% plus the cost of living increase, you can see that withdrawal here all the way down. At the end of that 15th year, your average return would have been 4%, a little over. And you can see that your balance in your portfolio would have been $273,000. If we switched those around and reordered your losses, you can see in this column right here, swap them, have the losses here at the end instead of the beginning. You consider these two investors. The first one here, the actual what happened, the swapping around of those losses, and you can see that the one that had the gains in the very beginning of their portfolio had much better opportunity in their very beginning. Even with taking withdrawals, the same exact amount of withdrawals each year, they enjoyed a few years of solid growth in the beginning of their journey. Over time, they each had that same average rate of return of a little over 4%. But the end result for the two investors was radically different, $273,000 and $890,000. This is known as sequence of return risk, and it certainly makes a difference when you start the withdrawals. It's a 1-2 punch. Understanding and managing sequence risk is critically important, because otherwise you might quickly deplete your nest egg. Especially in years like what we're in right now, 2020, the IRS has actually relieved us from taking those required minimum distributions, those RMDs from your IRAs, your 401ks. When you're 70 and a half was the old rule of thumb, or old requirement for the RMDs, and now after the Secure Act, it's age 72. But whatever it is, if you're required to take that minimum distribution, you do not have to take one for 2020. This gives us the opportunity not to take withdrawals and sell from our accounts when the market is low. But it gives us that opportunity to actually recover and generate income for the future. Another thing is to look at tax efficiency planning. There's never been a better time for Roth conversion consideration and tax efficiency planning. We know that we're in really low tax rates right now. For the tax reform is set to expire in 2025. So we have 4 to 5 years for tax planning and tax mapping. How to mitigate your sequence risk. There's several things that we have listed here. Working part-time, normally when you retire, that's not one of your options, is going back to work. But looking at some of these other options certainly can help. Diversifying your income, having multiple streams of income. The more streams of income, the better in retirement. Being flexible with your spending. We're all cutting back on our spending in some way or another right now. Gas is one of those things. By staying at home, our fuel expenses certainly are going down. And we're being tested on our emergency fund. The amount of emergency fund that you have personally or for a business, 3 to 6 months at least at a minimum in your savings, your checking, or your cash on hand. Definitely a great time to reevaluate that and make sure that you have enough during times like this. And then looking at some of the financial strategies that are out there, life insurance, annuities. There are many fixed strategies that they did not have 5 and 10 years ago. So maybe they're going to be a good fit for you these days. When I first started in this business, it's been 28 years now. The typical retirement plan was for about 20 years. But the good news is we're all living longer, happier, more productive lives, but planning for 30 years or more. It's very common, and this means it's even more important to you to have a solid plan. You work hard for your money, and when you're in retirement, it's time for your money to work hard for you. There are various methods that acknowledge and give a passing nod to longevity risk, but not all of them are effective, nor do they account for the unprecedented and historic times that we're in right now. They could also develop during the rest of your retirement. That 4% rule of thumb, that's one that we hear about all the time. What we have to watch for there is in the inflation years, the high inflation years, and to make sure that we have those guardrails in place, just like going bowling. You want to make sure that the years that aren't doing so well, like we're in right now, that we're able to dial back and cut back on your spending and what you can afford. We're definitely making changes in our bucket lists, our vacations, our travels, our plans have been postponed or canceled for this year. So definitely ways that we're cutting back on our expenses. But there is hope. One day we will get back to those bucket lists and be able to really enjoy that retirement lifestyle that we've worked so hard for. There are other ways to mitigate your longevity risk. Spending money safely, we talked about that. Calculating that longevity risk, what your life expectancy is, and to also make a decision of when to retire. And working part-time, again, not the best option for everyone. And having passive income sources can certainly be important. And having that steady stream of income, or mailbox money that we call it. Income producing financial products is going to give you that money in your account each and every month, no matter what happens. Behavioral risk is another one. There are 4 different types of investors that we're going to go over today. And as we go through them, see if you're one of these. The preserver, the follower, the independent, the accumulator, and see if there's a way that you can avoid making some common mistakes. We've given names to these. It's actually Patty the preserver. She has a set it and forget it style of investing. Her average return is anemic at best. And when she needs to make withdrawal, she sells at the wrong holding time every time. Philip the follower. Philip is easily influenced and sometimes impulsive and sometimes unsure what to do, so he does absolutely nothing at all because it's better and easier than making the wrong move. The independent. Izzy the independent. She's addicted to the market news and guides herself on being well informed. She's constantly tweaking her portfolio based on the news of the day and has trouble following a long-term plan. Arthur the accumulator. Arthur is trying to outperform the S&P. He's constantly chasing returns with no idea of how much risk is really involved as he confidently clicks along making buys based on speculation and whims. So which investor are you? This is the typical investor emotional cycle. We have illustrated here the psychology cycle from 2004 through 2017. And as you can see, it starts out with optimism, excitement, thrill, euphoria. And then as the market goes down, like in 2008 and 2009, there's anxiety, denial, fear, desperation, panic, capitulation, despondency, depression, hope, relief. The market's starting to go back up, and we're back through that same cycle. Optimism, excitement, thrill, and euphoria. Mitigating behavioral risk and avoiding the emotional roller coaster. If you're ready to get off the roller coaster and move toward a new path, give us a call. I'd encourage you to reach out. We're still taking phone calls and we're doing virtual go-to meetings. That's just like FaceTiming with your kids and your grandkids. Our process is designed to help you make smarter decisions. Your financial plan should be based on your unique goals. We're all truly Picasso. And we incorporate risk management techniques and best practices based on solid planning, and we help implement those with success, your success in mind. Our job as a fiduciary is to help you make smart choices, even in difficult markets. So how should you respond to a bear market? We've heard that question quite often. We're all navigating to our new normal. It's a daily challenge for us. And if you're also trying to figure out how to respond to the changes in the market in order to protect your nest egg and preserve it, you're not alone. And what is the best way to guide you through this uncertainty, position you for the best opportunity, and protect you from the risk during ordinary conditions, as well as these that we're going through right now that are historic and unprecedented times? The typical bear market lasts 18 months. May last longer, may last a little bit shorter. And being prepared. We all have a little extra time on our hands right now, and we're reviewing our relationships, how we're spending our time, and certainly how organized we are. While you're in this stay-at-home mode, it's important to gather this information, what is going to be necessary if something happens to you for when that time comes. Making sure that you have the updated medical information for your trusted loved one. The medical information for you and for your pets, I strongly recommend both of those, and your legal documents, making sure that they're updated, that you have your beneficiaries updated on all of your accounts, and making sure that your power of attorney is active under the state that you're residing in. Make sure that your power of attorney in the state of Florida, if you're a Florida resident, is dated after 2011. And your trust, making sure that everything is titled and going where you want it to go. And also those passwords, those dreaded passwords. We all get frustrated over keeping track of those, but just making the list and making sure that we have all the updated ones for that trusted loved one, and just in case something happens to us. One way that we have helped our clients take care of this is My Win File. It's a notebook, it's a document storage system. I founded My Win File when one of my family members was going through some serious health issues. And I realized that my mother was the CFO of our family. And if something happened to her, we would have to go through every piece of paper in their home to try to figure out what's going on. So fortunately, she's very well organized, and she has been a great example for me. And coming up with this document storage book has really been helpful for many individuals. And it's for when that time comes, whether you plan for it, whether it's life, death, or sickness. Give us a call. We'd love to share a copy with you. And then the questions to ask your financial professional right now. These are some of the questions that I would encourage you to ask or talk to me about. Am I taking on too much risk? How should I act if the market continues to drop? Am I diversified enough? Do I have the right portfolio for my age? And does my portfolio fit my financial goals still? It all comes down to uniquely you, making sure that you have that custom plan that's going to continue to work for you as you change, as things in your life changes, and as the economic environment changes. Don't forget to visit our website, mycampbellandco.com, our Financial Relief Resource Center, and to join us for our upcoming webinars. I hope this brings some help to you. And if we can help you in any way, just reach out to us. 352-683-7365 or mycampbellandco.com. This is Jackie Campbell, Certified Financial Planner and Certified Public Accountant of Campbell & Company, Wealth Advisors and CPAs, and Beyond the Money Radio. Join us again next time on our radio show or the Beyond the Money podcast. Take care and God bless.